So from the start, my name is João, and I want to thank you everyone for joining us. Christina's going to do all the introductions and tell you a bit more how Crowdcast works. You can post a question on the chat. There's an ask question button that you can use. And today we're going to have here two incredible colleagues of mine that I'm so excited that they have accepted the invite to come and talk to us about our people first culture. We had a previous webinar that was slightly more technical with our SVP of engineering, with our director of infrastructure. And one of the things that is also important to us is to show the other side of PagerDuty, is to show how we attract talent, how we treat social impact, how we become, how we are a people first company. And so my name is João. I am the general manager and engineering site lead for the new Lisbon hub. Before this, I was a CTO at an AI startup. I was also working at Microsoft. And today we have two great speakers with us that let themselves introduce. So Olivia, do you want to go first?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me today. My name is Olivia Khalili, and I have been at PagerDuty for just over 4 years. And my role as the VP of our global social impact work is to really champion and integrate how PagerDuty delivers value to society, to our communities, and to the environment through our resources and our core operations.
Thank you, Olivia. Tracie?
So I need to apologize. I think I was the one that was causing the awful noise at the beginning of the conference. So I'm not the most technical person out there. I think I was logged in twice. That was creating the noise. But hi, everybody. My name is Tracie Giles. I have been with PagerDuty a little over 2 years. I'm based in the United States out of Atlanta, and I have responsibility. My team and I around the globe are responsible for all hiring. So anyone that comes on to PagerDuty will touch base and work with someone on either me or my team.
Thank you, Tracie. So we have these two incredible speakers. So feel free to also put your name, your occupation on the chat. You already have there some examples, and let's dive in. So starting by the title of our conversation, people first means different things for different people. So my first question, and to kick off here this fireside chat, is what does people first at PagerDuty means to you? Olivia?
Sure. So a people first culture for me really shows up as how the organization thinks about its people, right? Not as a resource, but as a core collaborators to the future success and sustainability of our company, of the business. So when we think about it from a social impact lens in particular, we are trying to connect with our Dutonians, which is what we call our global employees, to help activate our company values and mission through driving social impact, through the partnerships, through the programs, through the learning and growth opportunities that we create. And in fact, I think one of the strong outcomes of the work that we do in social impact is how it helps to establish a sense of connection and connect Dutonians to company values. And so, in fact, 90% of our global team sites, our global work team, all of Dutonians, say that PagerDuty's social impact makes them proud to work for the company. So when we take a people-first approach, it's not as a side project. It is really central to activating the talents or perspectives, the diverse lived experiences of Dutonians, not only to help grow the business, but to grow our larger impact.
Thank you, Olivia. One of the things that when I joined PagerDuty, I found it fascinating was the fact that there's a dedicated team for social impact. There's actually a big empowerment and huge attention to social impact. And like you said, and it was the result of our surveys, it's quite rewarding, and it's quite proud to belong to a company that gives this attention. But one of the things that also I'm curious about is, how does being people first, and some of the things that you mentioned, Olivia, affect the talent attraction? And Tracie, can you give us more light on how these benefits or impacts the talent attraction and talent recruitment?
Yeah, I think it's super important. When I joined PagerDuty, being in the role that I play for the company, I have to really feel connected to the values of the company. And Olivia touched a little bit about that. And I will say that people first is just ingrained in our fabric on how we operate here. It's part of our values. We often talk about running together. We often talk about bringing yourself. These are values that you can read about on our career site. But to me, they're super important. And when we go through the recruitment process, the recruiters that my team is talking, or the candidates that are talking to, are highlighting the work that we do around here. But I think it's really important, and I get told this a lot, that when people go through the interview process, they get to see it in action, and they get to see our values being lived by everyone that they're talking to in the process. So I think about our culture as being a little bit of our secret sauce on how we can attract candidates, get people excited about PagerDuty, and then they can live and feel that as they go throughout the interview process.
Thank you, Tracie. And just picking on what you said, so if we look at numbers on PagerDuty, we notice that we've been hiring quite a lot in the last few years.
Yes.
And you said that people really feel that when they go through when they do the interviews, and that's a concern. Can you give us more example on how this is reflected in the process in the interview process, and what is the top of mind for you, given this company culture that you just described, when we look at the interview process and the recruitment end to end?
Yeah. So I think we are able to attract and get people excited, some of the top talent that's out in the market, and a lot of innovation, and people coming to PagerDuty are really excited about not only the opportunity that they see in the role today, but they can see a future. We talk about PagerDuty being a career destination for folks, so they can see a lot of opportunity on coming to PagerDuty. I think from a candidate experience, we're very mindful about the time we're asking candidates to come spend with us and explore opportunities with us. We know that we are not the only company in town. So we want to be mindful about the time and the effort that people put in talking to us. So the typical candidate that we look for is not typical at all. We're not looking for someone that's going to act or look a particular way. PagerDuty, I mentioned earlier, has a value of bringing yourself. So we like to really get to know the individual. And the recruiters will work on creating an experience that's going to make everyone feel welcome and have the opportunity for a candidate to show their best self and to be able to present their unique capabilities to the people that they're meeting from. Every role that we fill will have a diverse slate of people that we put forward. So again, we're not looking for a cookie cutter, one size fits all, this is the ideal person. We know that diversity is super important to us as a company. We know that our customers are diverse, and we know that you get better business outcomes by looking at a diverse mindsets coming together and tackling a problem and coming up with a solution. So we need to make sure as we go through the interview process that candidates have, we're not just looking at males, that we have females in the mix, that we have underrepresented folks, that we have people from different schools and different backgrounds and different education experiences to kind of put together a slate of people for a hiring manager to look and choose from. During the overall process, the recruiting team, as well as the hiring managers, we like to focus on how people-centric our organization is, so that people understand that when they come here, their voice matters, And we kind of keep that diversity lens throughout the entire part of our process.
Thank
if
you.
I could add some things, João. So I actually asked my team, we have a global team as well, how do you experience PagerDuty as people first? And it started, the feedback that I got was it started with the recruiting, both the transparency, the personability of that process, really being upfront about the opportunities, where PagerDuty was, what the growth trajectory of the role, even the compensation and benefits. And then some of the newer hires on my team also cited, the wellness days, the Dutonian days that we provide Dutonians, and also in speaking with senior leaders, it was clear that they were really invested in their team's well-being. So as they came into the company and worked with these senior leaders, really saw that care for their team. So I won't spoil some of the benefits. I know that's coming in the conversation, but they really did map across from the recruiting to some of the structures that we have in place to support employees.
Yeah. Before we jump to the benefits, I have a more provocative question for Tracie, which is, some of the things you describe sound great, but how do we enforce that, right? Because, like you said, you recruit for diverse roles. You, your department is also in charge of working with partners, working with interns. So the scope is so large. How do you ensure that you have inclusivity, inclusion, diversity, equity, that these are all in the pipeline? Because that must be hard.
It has been hard for me in my career. I'll tell you, here at PagerDuty, it's totally different. I've worked for companies that say they want inclusivity, that say they want diversity, but in practice, it's just not, you don't feel it, and it's not expected. I will tell you, at PagerDuty, when I was interviewing, that was one of the things that drew me to the company. I wanted to work for a company that valued that. And as I went through the interview process myself, I really was inspecting, like, is this really real? Is this really what, is this what I think is this too good to be true, really? I'll tell you the difference here at PagerDuty, for me working at multiple other companies, is the managers, the leaders, they ask us for the diversity. It is part of how we operate. And so at the end of a search, sometimes I'll have a manager say, hey, this was great, but the next time I'd love to see a little bit more diversity in the slate, diversity in candidates coming forward. So that is, I think, the biggest difference here. And the reason why I think PagerDuty, I say, walks the talk, is that we're diverse from, all the way up and down our organization. I often talk about how diversity starts, or the expectation starts, at the top. We have one of the most diverse boards, I think, in the Silicon Valley, where we have 50% female, 50% male board. 75% of our board is non-white. We have a female CEO. The global gender ratio throughout our company is 40% female, 60% male. These are data points that anyone can look up on our career site. You can look at pagerduty.com/diversity, and you can read the diversity report that's out there. And so there's a strong emphasis all the way down to our entry level, interns that we bring on board. We call it our CAP program. That is a very diverse makeup as well. So we actually walk the talk. Now, how do we get there? That's the hard part. And I always emphasize this. If someone's going to join my team and they want to join the recruiting team, that there's extra effort that goes into this. This doesn't happen by chance. It's not like, we just wish it to happen and it happens. We have to think about, how do we encourage diversity? First of all, we have to think about where we're looking for candidates. We use tools, we have partnerships, we work with different organizations to do things like today and talk on panels, but also share our stories and spotlight different diversity I don't say successes, but people that we've brought on board that have found a home here. We put managers and recruiters through unconscious bias training. So we're looking for that. Even how we put our job descriptions together and how we advertise our jobs. We want to make sure that that is inclusive, and we're not using words that are more leaning towards one race or another, or gender or another. So we think about it all the way through on how we attract, the words we're putting in place, the processes that are in place. We encourage people to meet with our employee resource groups if they're interested in meeting those folks throughout the process. So we are very transparent in our process, and also want to just encourage people to double click and challenge us on questions that they're having around how we operate as well.
That's great. One of the things that I found really nice when I joined was the refresh of these values, right? Even for someone that has done thousands of interviews, like going through these trainings and having this refresh, it's really, really nice, because it makes you think. It makes you like remember that this is quite important, and then it affects the long term of the company. So let's jump to benefits, and I think this is an important part of our talks, something that is often raised. We have a lot of questions from our candidates regarding benefits. So what can we expect in terms of benefits at PagerDuty, and what's your perspective there, Tracie?
So I think overall our benefits are very competitive. So we think about not only just compensation, but all of the extra things that go with it. And I know we've got people, there's people from all around the globe here. So our benefits vary by country, because in some areas there are legal requirements on what benefits that are offered. But one of my favorite things are when I interviewed at PagerDuty, I heard about hibernation duty. And I was like, what is that? You all hibernate? Sign me up. I'd like to join. But we have company coordinated days off together. And that is so refreshing, because when you take that time off together, you're not feeling behind when you come back after a vacation or time off. So we do that in a couple different ways. I mentioned the hibernation duty. That's what we have called our shutdown at the end of the calendar year. On the last week of the year, we all take time off and go into hibernation. But then we also have a wellness week, and that's coming up in July, where we're going to take a week off together in the mid-year break. Then we have, of course, your regular vacation time. We call it PTO here. But then we also have wellness days that go, we have almost every month. In July and December, it's tagged into those vacation times that I just mentioned, the coordinated time off. But once a month, we have what we call Jutonian wellness days. And that is just a way for us to recharge, do the things that we need to do in our life to really come back and start the work week refreshed. So those are, I think, exciting things for us that we certainly talk about in the interview process.
Yeah, and enables us to be more productive on a daily basis, because
Yes.
We're more well rested. So one of the other benefits that, Tracie, I think you didn't touch on was, but I found it really, really interesting, and maybe Olivia can talk about that, which is PagerDuty gives 20 hours of volunteering time. What is exactly that? What does that mean?
Sure. So as part of our Pledge 1 commitment to giving back, we commit 1% of employee volunteer time to volunteer. And that can be done for a cause or an organization that you to participate through programs that we organize, or something that you're personally involved in your community, or with a family member, or any of those relationships. And so we provide 20 hours of paid volunteer time off annually. You can also apply this time to vote and to demonstrate in a peaceful manner. And then if you track your time around volunteerism, you can earn volunteer reward dollars, which is charitable money that you can donate to a charitable organization of your choice. Last year, we had 92% of our Dutonians either volunteer or make a donation to a charitable cause, which is a phenomenal participation rate. And Dutonians volunteered collectively over 5,200 hours last year alone.
If I could just chime in here, I think that is, Olivia, you started at the beginning of the session just saying how giving back just really makes Dutonians proud to work at PagerDuty. This is certainly something we talk about in the interview process as well. That coordinated the help that your team gives to help us volunteer is certainly very, very meaningful. And for us to be able to tell candidates that they can, volunteer at someplace that means the most to them and take 20 hours and do that, and then also get the bonus of charitable contribution afterwards is just like the icing on the cake. So it's something that is very important to us in recruiting.
Thanks. And we start that process as a new hire. So as a new hire, you have an opportunity to join the volunteer event. And then you get giving credit just upon your first week of joining. And so we're really putting our commitment forward early on in the Dutonian journey and hoping to really engage different perspectives to contribute to our collective impact.
Very nice. So after someone joins PagerDuty, so we talked about the interviews, we talked about the benefits, and after the offer, people join PagerDuty. And one of the things that I find it really important is that we set the right expectations for when someone joins. So what can people expect in terms of career growth, learning, people development? What do we do at PagerDuty about that, and how does that work? Tracie, maybe you can start.
Sure. So I think just as we grow, we're in this exciting spot of growing to be $1 billion company, and we realize that internal opportunity is a way to take our teams and give them the opportunity to grow, and for us to kind of see that scale that we need as a company. So there's a few things that we're doing as a people team, and Olivia and I both sit on the people team. One is making sure as a leader that you've got defined career architectures in place, and that when a new hire comes on board, you can spend time with them. And even probably before you join the company, you're having these conversations with your future manager to say, okay, if I come in at this role, what's going to be my opportunity to move up in the organization? A lot of what we're seeing in the market is not just always moving up within an organization, but moving over into another organization. So how does that career architecture help allow someone to grow and gain those skills into other areas? I think our people development team is amazing, and they put together different learning programs, learning weeks, different sort of internal programmatic things that we called our green shield and a yellow shield, which just really helps develop people. Our people development team is also working with specific teams this year to deliver training just based on a unique team's needs, to make sure that, maybe my team needs to grow in this area, would like to grow in this area, that we're being very specific on that front. I think, Olivia, you probably have some examples on just development on how people can work with your organization to continue to career growth.
We have some amazing stories and programs in place. So a couple that our team has built over the past several years is we have a global council of community responders. And so any Dutonian can apply to be on this council. We have Tracie from Lisbon, who's our newest community responder member. And these are our global ambassadors. They are the regional representatives of social impact. They partner closely with our team. They get access to a global network of their peers to drive programs. They get some support and funding for programs around volunteering and to help engage their local team members in that work. So that's a great program that you can join and apply to join if you come into PagerDuties. And then the other ones that we run around pro bono volunteer support. So we've created a couple of different programs. If you have technical expertise in customer success or in engineering or product or sales, you can join these programs to work directly with our nonprofit customers and our nonprofit partners to help them either implement or expand their use of PagerDuty. And you're matched with these organizations. You're matched with 1 to 3 other Dutonians, so you're functioning in a group. You're not just out there on your own. You get a playbook and curriculum and support from our team to help these organizations who are using PagerDuty in their mission critical work to implement or improve. And so those are some of the opportunities that we have created to really tie in development with impact to our customers, and also being able to connect and learn from other Dutonians who may not sit next to you in the office or who may not be part of your team, but you're working cross geographies and cross teams.
Thank you, Olivia. And I'm going to grab some of the things that you just mentioned and try to connect this also to our social impact initiatives. One of the aspects, and this is one of the items I've heard, is we're building technology. We're a SaaS company, but it's, for us to be successful, it's very important that we give back to the community, because the community is in essence what supports us as well as a company, right? We're part of the community, so giving back is key for success. So what do we do at PagerDuty, or can you give us more insights about what we do at PagerDuty in terms of giving back, in terms of having a social impact? And there's one particular program that I would like you also to talk about, which is PagerDuty.org.
Great, yes. So about 5 years ago, PagerDuty took a commitment. It's called the Pledge 1%, to commit 1% of our equity of our employee volunteer time. And I spoke a little bit about that, and also of our product, to advance social impact outcomes globally. And so the work that is driven through the PagerDuty.org team, and that's our social impact arm of the company, is along those pillars, and then some additional ones. So we really help to activate Dutonians as agents of change. And I talked about some of the benefits and the programs that we have established to do so. We also have a discount and a donation program for our technology for nonprofits globally. So, and we just, several weeks ago, we relaunched this program to provide an even stronger discount to nonprofits to lower their barriers for using PagerDuty as part of their mission critical work. And I think this is notable because in a time of rising prices and some inflationary trends that many companies or countries are seeing globally, PagerDuty is actually reducing the cost of use for these charitable and nonprofit organizations. And that's part of our commitment to ensure that they can access the same technology that our commercial customers can to drive their mission, to reach more people. And I can share an example of what that might look like. So one of our nonprofit customers is the Trevor Project. And the Trevor Project is committed to supporting LGBTQ youth in times of crisis. They initially used PagerDuty, as many customers do, for incident response. That was part of their technology stack for their engineering and IT. But their CTO, quickly realized that there were multiple uses, and that PagerDuty could be connected through machine learning to their online platform, which is a global platform called Trevor Space. And through machine learning, when people were chatting on this global platform and there was any indication of self-harm or suicidal ideation, an alert PagerDuty would alert the crisis response team. The crisis response team could then look at the incident and provide support and outreach to that person. And so what the Trevor Project, our customer, experienced overall combined a 15% reduction in mean time to respond across their technology issues, as well as these more human indicated crises, which is incredible. And as they continue to further implement PagerDuty across some of their systems, they're continuing to see a decrease in the time it takes for them to respond. They're also gaining efficiencies and not having to staff as large a team to respond, to always be on and responded to these crises. So I can drop a link to the video if you're interested in checking that out into the chat in a couple of minutes, but they're a great customer. So that's one of the ways that we support, and we support more than 300 nonprofits globally through our discounted pricing. We also provide funding to nonprofits, and maybe I'll just share briefly. Last year, we provided almost 1.9 million in funding to multiple nonprofits globally, with a key focus in the area of time-critical health and also justice and equity. We partner very closely with PagerDuty's Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity team and our employee resource groups to align our strategies and our programming to ensure that equity is baked into how we think about social impact. And so we drive a lot of shared learning and resourcing through those partnerships.
And that's super interesting, by the way. But how do myself as a PagerDuty employee, how do I get involved in these initiatives? How can I get some participation? Because what you described seems awesome. So how can I get into these initiatives?
So many ways. So some of it starts with, as you come on to PagerDuty as a new hire, you get to participate in volunteering and you get money and charitable dollars to give back. So that's like number one. Then I mentioned our Global Community Responders Council that you can sign up for. We organize monthly volunteer events that anyone across the company can participate in. We integrate volunteering into our annual company kickoff at the start of our fiscal year. So it's really a part of how we are engaging and aligning our global Dutonian body around our strategy and our company values. We have multiple pro bono programs where you can utilize your technical skills, your sales skills to help our nonprofit customers. And then if you join an ERG or employee resource group, we have a host of activations with them, for volunteering to learning. We ran 2 events yesterday. One was a bystander training event with our Rainbow Duty, which is our LGBTQ ERG. And then we also ran one with our global crisis response team to support a large NGO, non-governmental organization that we have partnered with in the area of crisis response. And in that day alone, we had nearly 150 Dutonians, which is close to 15% of our workforce, volunteer. Those are opportunities that anyone could easily join. So those are just a handful, but our team is constantly engaged with managers, with Dutonians, with our community responders who are our regional representatives, to understand what they're seeing, what they're tracking, what the needs are, and how we can fill these gaps for our community partners.
You mentioned here some examples, and you mentioned ERGs. So for the audience, which is maybe not so much into the topic, can you explain better what are the ERGs? What kind of ERGs we have? You already gave 2 examples, but I know that we have more. So and also for Tracie, like how do you see this in your role around talents, right? How does this connect to talents as well?
I can, Tracie, I'll just take the first part and then have you hop in.
Yeah.
Sure. So the employee resource groups are, they are communities created by Dutonians for Dutonians and the community they're a part of. So we have, I believe, 6 ERGs at PagerDuty. We have Array, which is comprised of Black and Brown or African American, Black and Latinx PagerDuty employees. We have Page Able, which is around mental and physical ability and disability. Patriot Duty for veterans, military veterans, and Rainbow Duty for the LGBTQ population. And then Illuminate, which is our newest ERG. It was formed last year for Asian Pacific Islanders. And then the last one is Sister Duty, which anyone can join at either someone who is representing as female or an ally. And I really want to emphasize that any of these ERG communities, if you are not that, if you don't identify as that gender or that ethnicity or some characteristic, you are still welcome and able to participate and to further that work as an ally. So these create really safe spaces for Dutonians, as well as these Dutonians are helping to drive specific business and cultural outcomes. They can come together to voice their concerns, drive change, support each other, and they are also strong drivers of a lot of our social impact work.
Thank you, Olivia. And so Tracie, how does this connect to our talent? Where do you see the impact of these so many initiatives?
So I think a couple of things, and I do want to call out, yesterday I did attend one of those events yesterday, Olivia. It was fantastic. Then I went to the Rainbow Duty one. I think a couple of things. We talk about this during our interview process. We highlight this. It's on our career site that we want people to understand there are different groups. And to me, it supports the concept and our value of bring yourself, right? I've had someone interview with me and say, I didn't realize, like, you know, somebody had blue hair and they look different than me. And I love that they can come in and experience the bring yourself, because that's really who we are. But all of these ERGs allow people that identify with one of those groups to say, hey, I'd like to talk to somebody. So we allow that, or we encourage that during the interview process, that if someone would like to learn more about Rainbow Duty or Patriot Duty or Sister Duty or any of our ERGs, that they could spend some time with someone that is in those groups that is not part of the interview process, right? No one's going to ask them, well, how did they do? It's really just for the new employee to explore meeting those folks and understanding what those groups are. We also talk about the activations that Olivia talked about. I'm a part of Sister Duty, and one of the things that I've shared with folks is during COVID in the United States, there was a small businesses were impacted greatly during COVID in the year of 2020. And Sister Duty realized that women-owned business, and in fact, Black women-owned business, were impacted pretty significantly. And so what we did in Sister Duty is we worked in partnership with the other ERG that Olivia mentioned called Array. We identified 3 businesses in 3 of our locations where they were owned by Black women. And we invited them to come to a webinar like this and talk a little bit about their business. And then we did kind of 2 different things that I think really helped them. One is they got a grant out of the ERGs where we could give them some money to help them. But then we did, I think the most powerful thing is we went shopping on their websites, and we spent about an hour spending our money for the holidays and buying gifts from their web pages. So I think, you know, those stories, and I'm sure Olivia could list, we could spend a couple hours talking through all the stories about how we give back as a company. And people, when you share those stories, that really resonates with folks, because I think the candidates today that we're talking to, we've gone through a global pandemic. We've changed a lot of our priorities. These sorts of things are very important. So being able to see, hear, feel, and being able to talk to someone, even though you're not an employee, and giving them an opportunity to meet someone who is in an ERG, to learn a little bit more, I think is very helpful during the interview process.
That's great. Before we go into questions, and I do want to save some time for the questions, so if you're in the audience and you want to post any questions, feel free to do so. But before we jump to the question part, I have one final question for the both of you. And in order to complete the circle, we started with what People First meant to you, and so if you could speak to today that highlights PagerDuty's People First value, right? If there was one thing that you could speak about, what would that be and why? And we can start by Olivia.
You know, this is just a challenging question because it's kind of, I mean, in a way, it feels like asking a fish to describe water. It's just, this is kind of the culture that we operate in. You know, one thing that, there's two quick things I'll share is that one, I had a hire on my team, and within 2 months approximately of joining our team, she went out on parental leave. And, you know, we provide, and I understand caveat that this varies by country, but absolutely we provide really generous parental leave benefits, and particularly for US standards. And she was given the full support to do that, even as a new hire. And so to me, that is an indication of our long-term investment. We're seeing a long-term investment in the potential of our employees. We are providing them with the time and the resources and the support that they need to show up as their personal selves first, as their family members, you know, in their community. And so that's one thing. The other thing that I'll share is I mentioned that I joined about 4 years ago, and my first week at PagerDuty was Pride Week, and we're also in Pride Week right now. And so we like to, actually I haven't followed suit today, but each day of the week, you're encouraged to wear a different color of the rainbow. And I came into this company and I thought, you know, wow, like, I don't know, like, I'm kind of like more senior, like, do people do this? Is this cool? But I'm like, all right, I'm getting into this culture. So I did it, and I showed up, and people showed up, and every day we would gather in the cafeteria when we all went into the office and take a picture and put it onto Slack. And that's always stuck in my mind. It's such a small thing that really exemplifies just, it's a modest culture. Like, we can have fun. It's not hierarchical, and we're here in support of one another and differing identities.
Yeah, sometimes a gesture is very important. And thank you for sharing, Olivia. So Tracie, what is the one thing for you that represents the people first value?
Yeah, I think to Olivia's point, I've had a couple of moments where right after I joined PagerDuty, there was a lot of civil unrest that was going on around the world. And it made me feel as the human being a little bit helpless with what was happening. And at that time, we changed our volunteer program to allow peaceful protesting. And gosh, I'm getting choked up. But on that day, I went down and protested with my family. And that was really, really meaningful. We got the day off for Juneteenth, and it was a change that was made at that time. I can't even believe I'm not getting choked up on this, but it was meant a lot to me. And, you know, I have pictures of my son holding signs and being able to go down there. And the fact that PagerDuty was in tune with what was happening with the world, and in tune of what was happening with the employee base, and making changes right then and there to allow us to peacefully protest and use our volunteer time and to go out and drive change with things that were important to us, sealed the deal. Like, you know, that was I'd only been at PagerDuty about 6 weeks. And that to me was living proof of how we operate and how we put people first.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for sharing and sharing your emotions. I think it doesn't get more genuine than this. So thank you truly for sharing your experience, and same, Olivia. I think it was a great conversation, and thank you both for participating. We have one question from the audience. Roma already helped here with an answer, but maybe we can also make here some complementary response. So a question is, can anyone work from anywhere in the world? And if there is any legal or regulatory restriction? So maybe Tracie, you can give some comments here.
Yeah, so we have the ability to hire and have people start in certain parts of the world, right? And there's certain countries in EMEA, certain countries in APJ, and in North and South America. We do allow people, there's regulatory things that we have to look at. Like I couldn't just pick up and go to an island in Tahiti and start working and say, this is where I'm at. We do allow people to take a period of time off and work from anywhere so that they can, take that working vacation or go be with family, maybe in countries where, with COVID, we've been shifting where we want to work sometimes, and we do offer remote work. But for anywhere in the world, it's just going to be for a few weeks. But we do have countries where you can work from full time.
Okay.
I shifted remote work. I shifted my location as part of our kind of remote or hybrid policy. And so I moved from my family and I moved from San Francisco down to Austin, Texas, and, continue to engage and execute as usual.
Yeah, and to reinforce, we have several members of our Lisbon team that are remote. They are in other locations of the country, and we just get together from times to times to meet each other. But working remotely is not a concern. So we live in a remote world, and that's totally possible at PagerDuty. So Tracie, we have one last comment. It's not exactly questions, but it is. So I'm going to read it. This Tracie is feeling now. This is exactly what I want to do, but I am unsure where I start. So maybe this is not exactly a question, that maybe we can give a hint of where to start. Where can someone start? Where do you see a small step? Maybe both of you can help here.
What I like, first I'd say join PagerDuty, and then you'll have all the resources in the world to do what you want to do. So I'll put that plug in first. But I think when all of this was happening at PagerDuty, we were really given an opportunity to either educate ourselves, to volunteer and give back, to drive change in our communities, and also to donate money if you wanted to help support financially an organization from that perspective. So I think for me, some of the biggest things that I've done is educate myself as much as I can about areas that I'm most interested in learning and seeing different perspectives and understanding that. Olivia, you probably have lots more resources. I just go to Olivia's team and say, what can I do? But if you're not at PagerDuty, Olivia, do you have any thoughts on that front?
Sure. I mean, I certainly think, we're the most powerful where we feel the most called to action. So if there is a situation or a community or a cause that you feel really motivated by, you do not need to be an expert, right? There is no threshold of expertise for helping and for stepping forward in the world. We need everyone to step forward and step up and raise their voice and give back. So I would say find a way that feels really comfortable to you. Obviously seconding that we have lots of opportunities at PagerDuty. If you're working for another company, ask them, turn the lens around, ask them, what are we doing? Why can't we do more? How can I help? How can I partner? How do we drive this change together? So I really also hope that part of what we're creating through our social impact work is the expectation in Dutonians that companies take an action to make the community and our environment better materially, not just by doing some donations on the side, but in really how they operate and what their policies are. And you hear that, so it comes through so strongly through our inclusion, equity, and diversity work, but also through our social impact work. So that accountability is really helpful, and we hope to empower Dutonians to be agents of change, both while they're at PagerDuty and if at some point they journey elsewhere.
Thank you, Olivia. And just to reinforce, we're also building our initiatives here in Lisbon. Lisbon is a new hub, so we're gradually also increasing our connections, building our social impact initiatives, because we want to be part of it. We want to be part of this culture of giving back, because it, like I said before, it's something that is key for success, is how we build technology with a meaning, how we give back to community. And thank you so much for all the questions from the audience. I want to thank again Tracie, Olivia. This was a great discussion. I loved what you said. I loved your answers, and how genuine this conversation went. And thank you so much for your participation. Truly rewarding and really good to hear what we're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, João.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.